Hola, mi gente. Welcome back to another episode of Growing Up Spanglish. I'm so glad you're here tuning in and joining us. Thank you to everybody who has been tuning in throughout the season. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for liking, following, reviewing, all of the things. So shout out to y'all for being part of our familia here. Shout out to our sponsor, Collab Studios, a beautiful space that you see us in every single episode. Our guest was amazed as he walked in and was like, wow, this is a great setup. Yes, it is a beautiful setup. Look them up, Collab Studios. Shout out to Angel for sponsoring us on this season 2 of the podcast. Let's say hi to my empanada.
Hey, what's up? Full of flavor over here. KJ
Yes.
in the building.
Let's introduce our guest.
What up, what up? My name is Tony M. Centeno, a.k.a. Tony MC. I'm Cuban and Puerto Rican.
Okay. I'm going to ask a question about that later.
Nah.
And where do you represent? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in South Florida, Broward County, born in Fort Lauderdale, Broward General. And I've been raised around a lot of cities in Broward. Like I've lived in Davie, I've lived in Hollywood, I've lived out in Weston. From there, I graduated high school. I moved down to Miami, went to FIU, graduated 2013. While I was there, I lived in Kendall. I lived on campus. So I lived all around that area. Afterward, I graduated. I left to New York City, start my career. I spent 2 years out there freelancing and then came back down to Florida. And I've been here ever since.
I didn't know that you did a little stint in New York.
Yeah.
What part?
I worked in Manhattan and I lived in Jersey. I lived in Jersey City, between Jersey City and Union City.
Okay.
But yeah, I was there for 2 years and then I came back down here and I've lived in...
Did you know that you were only going to go like temporarily?
Yeah, I didn't plan on staying there forever. I definitely wanted to just go out there and make as many connections as possible. And I did. And obviously get a lot of work done.
Yeah.
And I did.
Okay.
I truly feel like that experience helped me get to where I'm at today. And yeah, I'm proud of that journey.
We'll get a little bit more into that because right off the top, we just have to get it out of the way because we got 2 hip hop heads in the building. And so we can't go any further in the conversation without talking about this Kendrick reply that dropped at 8 a.m. this morning.
Yeah.
Hey, 8:24 to be exact, okay? Hey.
So I just want to talk about it for shits and giggles because I already know this one and this is your profession. So what are your thoughts? Let's talk about it.
First of all, I think it's great that Kendrick took his time. The fact that people were going in on him for waiting and the fact that Drake taunted him for waiting this long and brought up a lot of other different subjects, I feel like that fed into what we got. I loved everything about the responses. Like he literally not only packed a punch in every punchline that he delivered, but he also responded in his own way to all the criticisms that Drake had and other people had. Personally, I think it's a great diss track. I think it's a great response. As far as like the quality overall as like a song, it just released on streaming platforms and it's probably going to do some work on the charts. I feel like it's one of those songs where it's great, but I feel like it's definitely got some competition between push-ups. Not tailor-made, because, that one's gone now. But push-ups for sure. I think it's definitely got competition. My thoughts, especially on their beef overall, like over the past, it's been a couple of years now that this has been brewing. The fact that we got a response as detailed and meticulous as this, going up against Drake's where it's just like reckless. He's just like slandering everybody and anybody that comes towards him. I think it's good competition. It's good for the culture. And this is hip hop. This is what happens. You know what I mean? As long as they keep it on wax and they don't make it go any further, I feel like this is all in the spirit of what this game is all about.
It's all about the sport of it all.
Yeah.
Going back to your point, though, you were saying you're placing push-ups. You're saying it's a problem because push-ups is a song, like an actual song, versus Kendrick's joint doesn't necessarily have a hook. It's more just like...
Now, there are parts where, you have like catchy lines and stuff like that. But I feel like with Kendrick's song, it's more like a response,
Right.
more than, you know, a song for entertainment.
Right.
I feel like Drake was trying to not only get his jabs in and go scorched earth on all his enemies,
Right.
but he was also trying to give the people what they want. You know what I mean? And
which
that's
is also like the argument.
right.
That's the whole
I mean,
thing.
at this point, right? Even Kendrick in the song says, "I like you for your melodies.
Right, I like
don't
melodies.
like you
I
for
don't
the,
like you- I
for
don't
the
like
gangsta
some guy."
shit."
Which
So
ultimately, the way I take the Kendrick joint is, hey, bro, who are you?
Yeah.
Like the whole record is, who are you, bro? I think the thing that makes Kendrick meticulous in the way that he positions stuff is he's not deciphering Drake for his audience. He's deciphering Drake for actual listeners of hip hop.
Yeah.
In the
Right.
sense of, this is who y'all let at the top. Like, this
Right.
guy
Exactly.
here, him.
Yeah.
Look at this. Like, he's disgusted for this. Like,
man,
we don't
he
like
went
the
in on
shorty.
everything.
Oh yeah, every piece of his character
Everything.
is questioned. Push-ups isn't that, but you're gonna hear push-ups out at
Right.
some point.
And the thing is,
Yeah.
it's not even that it's being questioned. It's that none of us could be like, he's wrong. Like everything was
Hey.
just like, you got a point there.
Hey.
Like,
That goes why I think the fire part of the joint is people have already reversed that beginning part.
Yeah.
And it's
You know
from
where it
the
comes
Wiz.
from, right?
Yeah, it's from the Wiz.
Wiz.
And in the Wiz, Michael Jackson's the Scarecrow. So it's like the play
On the
Michael Jackson
Prince.
Yes.
joint.
Yep.
But
good.
also it's him saying everything that they say about me is true, and then you let off a litany of just, oh, look at him, look at him.
Right,
Ew,
yeah.
y'all like him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, man, like I appreciate that he was able to really like think this through and offer up like an intelligent, like cohesive, like amazing response. He hit everything down to even the tailor-made freestyle. Like
yeah.
he even questioned, yo, am I battling an AI or a ghost? What is it? You know what I mean?
Right.
So like he really put everything into perspective and he just killed it, man.
But also, even on that, like the Pac ring flip joint where he's, yo,
Yep.
I heard what you just paid for that. I'll double that just so Pac don't turn in his grave. That's all the play on.
Right. Yep.
Oh, that's what you're doing over there? Okay, cool. And this is who you think you are? I just
So
love
do
it,
we
man.
think
I love this
that
shit.
ultimately that this is just for the sport of it, for the culture, or do we think that there's like a real,
Oh no, it's
there's
real.
like a real
No,
underlying?
it's real.
Okay.
Granted, they're keeping it
Court-
professional
sure,
and
yeah.
but it's real.
Oh.
When that record dropped.
Mhm.
I was like in a position where maybe they're just doing this for fun. They're probably on like a group chat, like laughing about all this stuff that's happening. But as soon as Drake dropped Push-Ups, I was like, oh nah, this is serious.
Okay.
When you got mans talking about his family, like in the record, and it's like, all right, we getting a little personal now.
Got
so
it. Got
I
it.
feel like now there's got to be some kind of like root to
It's
like how evil it can become. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
It's funny though, because I think Kendrick is saying, hey, bruh, you still got a chance here to end up on the good side of me. Like in
yeah.
the verse, he says the whole play on, there's 3 goats here. 2 of them are on stage hugging and kissing.
yep,
Mhm.
yep.
I love them to death, but if they're not truly friends to me, I'm YNW Melly. That's a bar.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, no,
right?
that was a
Right,
bar.
you
That was a
said that, I
bar.
was
Yo,
just like-
son. And you know what? Shout out to Melly and the team, but it's like a double-edged sword
Oh,
promoting
totally.
that one. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like he's got to be careful with that. So
Right.
he's going through his own thing right now, but at the end of the day, once everything is in the clear for him, that's when I feel like he should really speak on it, embrace it, whatever.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
but for right now, man, he got to be careful. But
Yeah, you gotta chill.
Yeah.
nah, man. But truly, I feel like Kendrick offered. He did the right thing. You know what I mean? And J. Cole also did the right thing.
Hey, Cole.
Bowing out.
Hey. Cole. Let me tell you something. Cole was at his crib. He was sitting on the couch. He was like, he
He's
said,
like,
nope, not
I already
today.
know
that's
what it
good.
is.
I'm
I'm
gonna
not
mind my
touching
business.
that.
I'm gonna mind my
Right.
I'm gonna mind my business.
Oh man, nah, man. When I first saw the apology there, my face was just like,
Oh no.
I was like, what? I understood. I was like, all right. Now and then, especially seeing all the other
Right. He
tracks come
probably
out.
foresaw everything.
Whew.
He said, you know what? I'm going to call it quits.
He said, I'm good.
I'm good.
Bruh, as someone who was there in person,
Oh, you were at Dreamville Fest?
yeah, when it
Oh, wow.
happened, I'm sitting there, my hands are on my head. Because he just did this amazing set
Yeah,
with
yeah,
all
he
of the
did.
people he just bodied over
Yep.
features over the last 2-3 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, this guy's about to either pop his shit like big time and just say, I'm really the GOAT.
Yeah.
Look at what I just did. And then when he does the, yo, X, Y, Z, I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like the
Yeah.
silence that happened, it's real because it's like the fans are just like, bro, are you really doing this to us right now?
Yeah, I saw the live stream when it
Oh,
happened,
my
like
God.
in my face, and I'm like, no way. And I heard, you could not hear the crowd. There was
Quiet,
no
dead
nothing. There was
quiet.
no cheers.
Right.
There's no shouting. It was just like everybody was stunned.
Yeah.
Because even I expected him to perform
Yeah.
a 7-minute drill. I feel like everybody was expecting that.
Yeah.
Totally.
And when he just started getting up there and pouring his heart out, and we're like,
This is not
nah,
what we came here for.
this ain't it.
If he wanted to do that, in all honesty, his out should have been, all right, perform the first person shooter verse, because he didn't perform that song that night. Perform that song. Say, hey, I still think he the GOAT, but I'm going to take his head off if he talk crazy about me. And you could have just left it there, right? And we would have been like, and we could have been like, all right, bro, you still bigging him up.
Yeah.
We know y'all really homies, right?
Yeah.
And then Kendrick could have responded, and you didn't have to respond again if you didn't feel like it.
Right.
Now, going back to Cole, Kanye's making the noise out there. I do agree with Joe Budden that he probably should take Kanye's head off or somebody's head off for the sake of your legacy. Like, you got to kill somebody. Somebody got to die.
Cole has a redemption arc in his future.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
for
feel
sure.
like if he takes the route where he's dissing Ye for that remix, I'm totally fine with that.
Oh, 100%.
I will give him that total redemption. Be like, all right, cool. Come back. Drop this shit.
Look,
Right.
Come back. But for right now, even if he waits X amount of time to do that, I'll give him that grace period because you got to let this die down first in order to make any kind of noise at this point.
The way I see Cole's apology is like, it's you and your homie arguing in the street, right? And y'all get to beefing real quick. And then you like, you know what? My fault, son.
My bad.
I bugged out. We bugged out. It's all good. And then somebody else try to say something to your homie, and you like, hey, bro, you can't talk to him like that.
Yeah.
I gotta smoke you now. That's how I see it. He got to step out on somebody at some point, especially if you're saying, we know his pen is the most improved. We know his pen is legit, probably the best over the last 3 years out of all three of them, in my opinion. Before y'all try to come for me for that. And I just think that like he has to prove at this point, no, that was a one-off. The rest of y'all though, any one of y'all
could get it.
Yeah.
No, you are not tuning into a hip hop podcast.
It could be.
It could be sometimes.
Just based on where we at.
Right. This is still growing up Spanglish, but I just wanted to get the opinion because this is your profession, right? So I wanted to know, and we can dive in a little bit more about how you got there and how you ended up on that journey. But let's take it back to the beginning. So you said you were born in Fort Lauderdale.
Yep. So when I was born, it was me, my mom, my dad, my grandmother, my aunt, and my uncle who had moved over from Puerto Rico. So now we're all living in this house in Fort Lauderdale. And I spent my first years, maybe until 3 or 4 years old, living in that situation. And that's really where I learned to speak. Spanish was my first language.
Mm-hmm.
So I was speaking Spanish in the house. My parents were speaking Spanish to me. And then it came time for me to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I was in preschool and I had to take ESOL classes. So I was involved in that. And that's where I learned English.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was learning English, I would go home and I would try to speak Spanish. And then I would confuse both languages.
Mm-hmm.
So at one point I was speaking Spanglish.
Mm-hmm.
But it got to a point where I became intelligible. You couldn't understand what I was trying to say. And I was visibly frustrated when people didn't understand me. My parents had to take me to one of those language doctors for kids, and they were like, yo, you got to choose which one.
Really?
And they told me they told my parents that it's either one or the other right now. They picked English and I ran with it. I had a little accent until maybe second, third grade, and then my English got better.
Yeah.
And then eventually with Spanish, I knew at the time, a choice words and the phrases that I've come to know with my family.
Right.
But when it came to having deep conversations or more detailed conversations, it wasn't happening.
So did your parents also actively choose to only speak English in the house?
Yes.
So the decision was made.
Yeah.
Only English in the house.
Eventually my grandmother and my aunt and uncle, they moved out. It became easier.
Got it.
And they had to make the same decision with my brother. My brother is 4 years younger than me. So they just chose to speak English with him. After that, now it's maybe middle school or whatever. And the discovering my heritage, really like getting into it when it comes to the music and all that. So now I'm hearing a lot of the music. 2003, 2004, I'm hearing a lot of reggaeton.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing the music and I'm understanding some of the words that they're saying, but not all of it.
Right.
And that became a thing to me. Like, if I'm gonna like this music, I at least try and understand it, whatever. So
what was your first introduction?
Man, all right. Obviously, a lot of friends, like, they would just play it randomly. I would hear it in the speakers.
Yeah.
At that time, too, I was addicted to radio. So I had a big boombox in my room with them big ass boombox. Yeah. When 94.9 launched in like 2004, I'll never forget this. So it was a weekend, and it was like, since it was new, like, they played all of the reggaeton, no commercials for 3 days straight. I had the radio on the entire time, listening to all of them, the Wisin y Yandel, Daddy Yankee, Zion y Lennox. And I'm hearing all this music, and I'm just like, yo, like, this is the type of music that I'm really messing with right now.
Resonate with
yeah, it's resonating with me. Granted, hip-hop was there too. Mm-hmm. So I had loved hip-hop even before that. Mm-hmm. So obviously, like, my taste in music was already in that direction. Right. So hearing it in Spanish was more like a relief for me. It was just like, man, like, it's good to hear this type of music in the language that I grew up in. Granted, like, I can't speak it well. I'm trying to understand it better, but it still resonates with me.
It's still something that is like, oh, okay, like, I already like hip hop, and yeah, I'm Hispanic, so this makes sense.
Yeah,
that
it makes sense. I continued. I even started listening to more. I listened to merengue, bachata, like, just to get up on more Spanish music.
Yeah,
salsa, cumbia, like, all that. And it really, amongst all my friends, it was nothing. Reggaeton and all the Latin music was just like natural.
Yeah. I
didn't even know how to like dance merengue until like I hit high school. I learned all of that growing up, going out to different parties and stuff. I was in a quince with one of my friends back then. Had to learn it there too. Think about my life growing up and stuff like that. Granted, hip hop was always foundation as far as like my music taste. Latin music has always been a part of my life too. And granted, my Spanish, even today, like, it's improved a lot, but it's still not the same when I was a kid. It's always about keeping that and using that to really flourish my Spanish.
Yeah.
And even today, like, I listen to Spanish. I understand a lot more Spanish music nowadays than I did when I was in high school. Listening to those songs back then, and it really helped me out for where I'm at now.
No, and that makes sense. I feel like the same for me. I feel like I grew up only speaking Spanish, to the degree where, like, my sisters would make fun of me because they were older than me. And so they were already in school. So they already were speaking English. So there were things that I did not know how to say. I did not know English at all. And I remember my sisters thought it was like the cutest little party trick to try to get me to say this. Because I'd be like, I know how to speak, like, in Spanish. And say inglés. And they'd be like, okay, then say this. And I always remembered one where they would be like, say, close the door. And my idea of, I know English, I was like, Cierra la puerta. That was my idea.
You said it like gringo.
And that was like, I know how to speak English.
Oh, that's
funny. Like, they would do that. But yeah, like, I also had to take ESOL, which is a running joke that it's ESL, but we all call it ESOL. We don't know where the O came from.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
But we just call it
Yo, mind blown. I just realized that right now, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah.
I've been saying ESOL my whole life, man.
We've all been saying ESOL.
It's always been ESOL.
But it's interesting because you actually were given a choice. Like, you had to make a choice. And I don't think I've heard anyone say that they had to make the conscious choice of what are you going to speak. Like, you have to either pick Spanish or English. Your child brain, you don't realize that, like, you're basically telling yourself to turn off this part of you, which is like really weird, right? I imagine that continues with us into adulthood, where, like, now we do want to speak more Spanish, but we probably feel silly or dumb, or I don't know how to articulate this correctly.
Even today, like, I'm very brief with my Spanish. Like, I say the bare minimum to get by, and that's it. You know what I mean? Just so I don't, because you're right. Like, I do sometimes, I'll feel a little like stupid, like when I'm trying to say like a phrase that I know in my head, but I'm trying to articulate it in physical form. I definitely get that feeling even nowadays. I have to be able to get over that, especially with what I do.
Mm-hmm.
In my line of work as a music journalist, like I've had to interview artists in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's one of those things where I have to really refresh like instantly. I have to like in my head, I have to be like, all right, this is you know what I mean? And then I have to write out my questions. I even have somebody like review proofread them, make sure that's the right way to write it out and everything. And then I rehearse them. Like I just, go through.
We love that.
And make sure that it's right. And even when I'm talking to the subject, sometimes they know, sometimes they don't, and then they run with it. I remember when I interviewed Anuel, like right after he got out of prison, like a couple years ago, and I spoke to him in like the most broken Spanish ever. And he was rocking. He didn't say nothing about it. He was just like going with it, answering the questions, whatever. And
did you speak to him in Spanish because the publication was Spanish, or because he only spoke Spanish?
Because he was speaking Spanish. Okay. Yeah. All the interviews that I've done with Spanish artists have been for English-speaking
gotcha.
publications. I interviewed Anuel for XXL. I've interviewed Ozuna for XXL. There's a different artist for Miami New Times that I've interviewed. But at the end of the day, it's more like I talk to these artists because I want to know their story and I want to be able to tell it the best way I can. Even doing all these interviews, I make sure that I understand their responses and make sure that there is nothing gets lost in translation. You know what I mean? So that's been the more rewarding part about it versus the actual like interview process.
Right.
But yeah, it's been great. And nowadays too, I feel like a lot of Latin artists understand that they're going to do interviews in English.
Yeah.
And I want to give them that option. But at the same time, if it's better for me to just do it in English, if they know English, then let's do it in English. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm curious because this happens to me. Do you find that do you go to Puerto Rico? Have you gone to Puerto Rico?
I went to Puerto Rico. No, I haven't gone often.
Okay.
I went for the first time 2 years ago for my bachelor party. Before I got married, and that was an experience.
I bet it was.
We went to Yunque, did all San Juan, and it was amazing because I hadn't been there as an adult. I went when I was a kid.
Okay.
And my parents used to take me as a kid, but because my grandmother at one point lived over there too. I had went, but I had never experienced it as an adult. So going over there and going to the beach that my dad grew up on, because he lived near El Yunque when he was a kid too.
Okay.
Because he was raised by his grandmother who lived in Puerto Rico. So he lived there basically all his childhood into high school, and then he went into the Navy, and that's how he got into the U.S.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Well, not
right. That's how he ended up.
He ended up in the U.S. But experiencing as an adult was incredible experience.
Yeah.
Just amazing. My wife, we still want to go back because she's never been there. She's Cuban and Mexican, but she still just wants to go.
Yeah.
And I tell him like, we're gonna go because
no, absolutely,
it's an amazing experience.
It's honestly the best. I'm probably biased, but I just don't think that there's any other experience like going back to wherever like your homeland is. Yeah. There's just a feeling that I never can really put into words, but for me, it's a feeling of like connectedness and belonging.
I felt at home immediately.
That feeling.
As soon as I got there, I thought it was going to be different. I thought it was going to be a different vibe. Before that, I had been to Colombia, Mexico. I've been to other Latin countries, but there was something about when we got to Puerto Rico, it was just like, wow, I felt like I didn't even go anywhere. I felt like I'm just in a different part of Florida.
Yeah.
But you're not. You're like hundreds of miles away.
Right. Yeah.
But it was beautiful. I'll never forget that experience.
Yeah.
I actually went to the Bacardi factory while I was out there.
Oh,
too.
Nice. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I did some tourist shit too.
There's so many. You have to though. I mean, there's so many things to do. It's honestly amazing. I don't think that people truly realize really what a treasure the island is. There's so much to do. But the reason that I ask is because I find that whenever I'm either around a lot of Puerto Ricans or in Puerto Rico, it's like the switch turns on. And the longer I'm there, then the Spanish becomes more fluent. And it's just like...
Yeah, I get that too. I get more comfortable.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get more comfortable, and some of it comes back. Like it comes back when necessary, especially if I'm ordering food or I'm talking to somebody just on the street. Ever. But when I was in Puerto Rico, it was like nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that same stress that I do, even out here sometimes. You would think that, or out here in Miami, everybody speaks Spanish and stuff like that. But there's also, you want to be able to speak good Spanish.
Right,
You
yeah.
don't want to sound like a tourist.
I think also too, because like in Puerto Rico, because we're U.S. territory, we do have a lot of Spanglish intertwined into the way that we speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So it probably does feel more comfortable, even if it's not super fluent for you. But there are a lot of words that are already Spanglish anyways, just because of the trajectory of how English was introduced to the island and stuff like that.
Right.
So it probably does feel a lot easier to, or a lot more comfortable if you're over there and you just get into the swing of things, as opposed to maybe being in like a Colombia or a Mexico where their Spanish is very good looking.
It's funny because I went to Colombia twice. I've been to Medellin and I've been to Cartagena. And I feel like Cartagena was I was a little bit more relaxed there versus Medellin, where I was like, oh man,
Is Cartagena beachy?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more
on the
close
ocean.
to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's why I think it feels more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
I still got by in
yeah,
Medellin
of course.
too. Like, it's not terrible, but yeah, you just meet a lot of people who are very proficient in Spanish.
Yes, yeah.
Speak it very well, enunciate.
It could be very intimidating when you're around people that speak the very proper Spanish.
Yeah, for sure.
Your wife is, you said Cuban and
Mexican. Yeah.
Okay. Does she speak Spanish? Not well.
So we're in the same boat. But I speak good enough Spanish for the both of us. So.
Do you find that you speak Spanish at home or not really?
Not really.
Not with each other, no?
Yeah, not. The only time would be like if we're talking about family or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not often.
Do you feel like for your children in the future, if that's something that you want?
Oh, yeah.
That you would want to?
They're definitely going to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they're definitely going to learn.
Okay.
We have two sets of parents who speak very well in Spanish.
Okay.
So we will have them
very well. Okay.
When it comes to the same, if they run into the same problem though, I'm probably going to pick Spanish and we'll work it out. Because I don't want what happened to me happen to my child.
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to that decision, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for the most part, like, I do want my child to speak both languages.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. Bringing it back to that decision that your parents had to make, did that make a difference in the home life? Were y'all watching Spanish television?
I watched Sábado Gigante with my grandmother all the time.
Okay.
So that didn't change. And both grandmothers watched it. So it's either or, I'm still watching it.
Right.
So that didn't change. As far as that kind of like home life, like, it wasn't necessarily the entertainment part because I was already watching the kid shows in English and stuff. It was more like on my parents. Like,
okay.
Get them to speak more English. My dad his English was not so good. It was a little bit more of a challenge
struggle,
for him. But he learned English with me, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And his English got better as mine did. And before he passed, his English was way better than it had been his entire life. It was definitely an adjustment, but it wasn't terrible. You know what I mean? It's not like it destroyed lives or whatever, but at the same time, I still think about what if they had just chosen Spanish and let the English work itself out.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Did you ever have to take a second language in school?
I did.
Well,
I actually did take Spanish.
Oh, okay.
So I took it because I just figured that it would it would still help me out.
Yeah.
It would teach me new words, maybe.
Did you take it
make me
for
more confident
native speakers?
No.
Okay.
I took the regular one.
Okay.
I remember them having the option, and I was like, I used to speak it, but I'd rather get a good grade. So I chose the regular Spanish. But even when I was in college, too, I did the same thing. I would pick the easy Spanish because, first of all, I knew it. Second of all, easy grade.
Makes sense.
But I took ASL when I was in high school.
Nice.
It's not like I wasn't not able to learn a different language.
Yeah, of course.
Even though that one's with your hands. But really just taking Spanish in general, it just helped.
Yeah.
It helped me become more fluent, simply just refreshing myself with all the vowels and everything that goes along with it, the proper ways to write.
I still don't know the accent, so don't look at me. I can't do it.
Oh, man. But yeah, no, it was still a good experience. Good educational experience.
Were there like family parties? Were you like having those type of
Yeah, of course. There's always family parties around. Friends' family parties,
Right.
like our own parties. When I was in college, I pledged a Latin fraternity. There were parties, all types of parties like
Right.
that.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like I was still involved, regardless of the language barrier. I was still,
Yeah.
active and going to things like that. I would go to Calle Ocho. I went to Calle Ocho when I was in high school and in college. I was always around the culture.
The culture, yeah.
Always. Yeah, always.
What do you think made you choose to pledge to a Latin fraternity?
So I pledged to a Latin fraternity because personally they were different. Going into college and spending my summer semester finding out about Greek life in general. At first, I had done my research and I was looking for a different fraternity that wasn't on campus at the time. So I was like, all right, let me find something else. I roamed through all the white fraternities and I was not impressed. And then I just happened to was walking around campus and I happened to walk by a show. I think it was for Zeta Phi Beta. It was a sorority.
Okay.
And I saw they had girls from the Latina sorority, which is Lambda Theta Alpha. Ours is Lambda Theta Phi.
Okay.
So when I had asked, I was like, because they did their calls and all that, and I was like, okay, there's girls one. Where's the Latin fraternity? And she was like, oh, they're right behind you. And literally, they were right behind me. I saw the brothers there, and I was talking with them. I spent a good semester getting to know them before I went through the process. And yeah, the following semester, I crossed Spring 09. Yeah, that semester I had pledged and I joined. It's still like, to this day, I feel like it was one of the best parts of my college experience.
Really?
Only because that kind of brotherhood lasts for life. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like you'll see a lot of the other fraternities and stuff. It lasts for like a semester. You're there and then barely talk to dudes afterwards. And this one is for life, for sure. I still talk to brothers that I met over 10 years ago. I pledged 15 years ago. I still talk to a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
I feel like that unity, and being united by your heritage, I think that part of my college career will always be the most memorable.
I didn't have that traditional college experience.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything really about, what is it? Fraternity life or whatever.
Yeah, Greek life, yeah.
Greek life, there we go.
Yeah.
I only go by movies or like what ends up in the news, which is always like the real horrible
the
stuff.
bad stuff.
Yeah. So I'm not too well versed in that whole entire world, but it is nice to hear that you were able to find a fraternity that like really resonated with you specifically because of your culture and your background.
Yeah, for sure.
And that you have this, like you said, like a brotherhood that's for life.
Yeah, Lambda Theta Phi truly, I feel like, still changes my life to this day. When I was coming up, when I first crossed and was meeting all kinds of different brothers from all over the place, it just turns into networking at the end of the day. You're networking with a lot of different people. When these people, they go on to help you out in all different aspects of life. There are a couple of brothers that are in the music industry that have seen me grow from the beginning of my career to where I'm at right now. And I feel like that kind of intersection is what really helped me in my career and where I'm at today. Shout out to the brothers, man.
Yeah. It's always good to have, we talk about this all the time, KJ and myself, that it's always very good and important to just have a community, a tribe, some sort of mentorship, something, because it is really difficult to navigate not only just like this world on your own. You do need some sort of support system, but it is very helpful and it's really important when you're trying to move in your career to have people that can put you in the right places or even just help navigate. Hey, like you should go about it this way or do these sort of things or whatever. And I think that people underestimate how important it is. So whether it comes through the form of Greek life, like you said, or mentorship in some other capacity, I think it is really important to have some sort of sense of community, if you will.
Of course, Latinos Unidos, man.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking about like that stage of your life in school and college, how did you decide that journalism was like what you wanted to pursue?
I had dabbled in journalism when I was in high school.
Were you like part of the
Yeah, I was part of the newspaper.
Cool.
Yeah, so I did a little time on the newspaper and then I left to pursue other things in high school. But
what did you do in the school newspaper?
Man, I was there for a semester and I had written up like a couple of pieces. Nothing too crazy.
Okay.
But
nothing too controversial.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. But it had really turned me on to the idea of writing professionally.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I explored other options that I had wanted to pursue. Oh man, I have a list of things that I wanted to do when I was.
What? Tell us. We've got time.
So at one point, I wanted to be a weatherman.
Okay.
I wanted to be like dude on the TV talk about the weather.
Yes.
Hurricanes,
Yes.
tornadoes. I was into all that when I was a kid.
Well, fun fact, I went to Miami-Dade for their radio and television program. So we had to take a class on meteorology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't do that because I was looking into all the actual college courses you had to take. And I was like,
There was like
nah,
science.
my brain isn't going to do that.
Yeah.
And especially if I want to make money, I was like, oh, nah, this is going to take a long time for me to make
Can you
money.
imagine like hurricanes and you get sent, you're like blowing in the wind? No.
Yes. Then I wanted to do business management and business administration. I wanted to open a restaurant, open some kind of venue at that time. I didn't do that because my ability at math was no good.
Not your strong suit.
Not great. I was falling back and I was frustrated at one point. And I was just like writing about it. And then I remembered, I was like, I'm pretty good at this.
So this is in high school?
Nah, this is in college.
Oh, in college.
This is
Okay,
now in
because I was going to say,
college.
wow, like
Yeah,
you're really
nah.
determined to figure it out.
So now I'm in college and
Okay.
I had, figured out that business administration thing already passed. So now I'm like, it's like the middle of my freshman year and I'm like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Like I said, I was writing it out and I was like, no, this is, okay, wait, I think I got something here. So then I went to my counselor and I was like, what can I do to change this to journalism instead?
Mhm.
She's like, you got to take these classes and whatever. I was like, okay, doesn't sound bad. I went over to the Biscayne campus over there at
Right,
FIU,
the
and that's
school
where I
of-
took a lot
yeah.
of my courses there. And when I discovered that I wanted to do entertainment, I was in actually. All right, I gotta rewind now. So I was in high school
Mhm.
when I was in journalism. When I was in the paper,
Newspaper, yeah.
I was in class and I got copies of XXL. Like I had been getting XXL, like the source. Like I would see the magazines in like Publix, and
Yeah.
at the time they had a little card you rip out, you fill it out, you send it in, whatever. So I was getting those copies, and I had seen this one issue that I did not get in the mail for some reason. I saw a classmate of mine like reading it and had the game on the cover,
Okay.
and I remember and I was like, why didn't I get? And then I was like thinking about it. I was like, damn, like I should have gotten that. So then I went back home and I was like looking through all the magazines again. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I wonder who makes,
You
just
started
thinking about it.
Yeah.
So then now fast forward, I'm in college and I'm taking these classes in journalism, and they're teaching us about WordPress and future is digital. The track that I had taken was print journalism.
Okay.
I would follow blogs, but I didn't know how to make. I didn't know how they were made and who made them, all that stuff. I would learn about that, and I would learn by reading like blogs like Rap Radar and
Mm-hmm.
Smash and all these different types of blog sites, right? Now I'm like doing this for fun, but at the same time, it's damn, like maybe I can do this, do the blogs and shit. One of my teachers was giving us a lesson about how to write a good story and like for newspapers and stuff.
Mhm.
So one of the assignments was go out to Liberty City and find a story. So I remember walking 7th Avenue in the middle of the day and just walking around like seeing what can I
By
do.
yourself?
Yeah, by myself. And I'm just like, okay,
Bold.
like where is the story here? Yeah. So
I'm
I
not
remember.
gonna lie, that might be like more gangster than most people.
Yeah, I went into this Chinese restaurant. I had just went in there because I thought, no, I was hungry. I was like looking at what they got. And the owner had a picture with him and Kimani Marley. Like,
Oh, okay.
So I was looking at it, I was like, where'd that picture come from? Kimani? He's like, oh yeah, man. He was telling me about him and stuff like that. I'm like, that's a cool story.
Jackpot.
So I interviewed him. I wrote the story about how he met Kimani Marley, and I went back to my teacher and I gave it to him. He said, this is interesting. So then I was like, all right, this is it.
You found
I
your
found
calling.
I
Got
found
it.
This is what I want to do. So then when I was in that same class, I had a classmate. Her name was Stephanie Long. I'll never forget this. And she was, at the time, she was an intern for Vibe. For
Oh,
Vibe
okay.
magazine. So she was telling me about all these stories that she found. I'm like, how do you even get in contact with these people? Like, how do you know? She's like, I applied online and here's the email. And I was like, bet.
Yeah.
So I applied and I had told them essentially that this is my last semester. Like, I'm looking for an opportunity, internship. I had never did an internship.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one thing that my professor was like, yo, y'all got to do an internship.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care where. Do something.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do any of the newspapers because I knew it was going to be
Boring.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew they're going to send me on some BS assignment covering, I don't know, anything. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted specifically entertainment focus.
Yeah.
When she gave me the email, I applied, I got accepted, and I graduated May, and I was out by June. Actually, no, I graduated at the end of April. Actually, I think I graduated like 11 years ago today. What's today? 30th? Yeah, I think I want to say, yeah,
Happy
that's crazy.
anniversary.
Yeah, right? 11 years ago today, I graduated, and then a month later, I was in New York. In the office working.
I guess that's a very college-minded, in your 20s sort of mentality to not really question how things are going to work out and just be like, yeah, I'm going to go to this internship in New York. Sure.
Yeah.
And I'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I remember I crashed on one of my fraternity brothers' couches.
There you go.
For the 3 months until I found a nice studio apartment, and rest is history.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I guess internship. Did you do an internship, KJ?
No. Like thinking about it, no, not really. Here's the thing, right? I think while I was never a kid who like went to school and just did school, like I always worked while in school. So it's like the experiences allowed me to do X, Y, and Z or parlay it into something else.
Yeah.
So like it worked out in my benefit. But looking at it, like sometimes I do question how much further along in career I'd be if I did do an internship at like 20 or like 19, somewhere in that ballpark. But then it's also, there's so much that you don't know that you can do until 24, 25, whatever the case is. So.
I think I was 22 when I did my internship.
Yeah.
That was the first. Yeah. That was the first and only internship like that I did. The other opportunities were like exposure.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember I worked for several months for free for big publication.
Okay.
They're known, but I'm just omitting.
Yes.
And I had done a lot of work for them and barely saw a dime. And then I worked for another blog that I did not see a dime from either. And it took me about a good year and a half before I found a job that paid me salary.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you feel discouraged during that? No?
It was more like I felt like it was part of the process to find opportunities, take advantage of them. From there, see if there's any opportunities to grow. Mm-hmm. If not, be out.
So you always felt very confident that you would be able to parlay this degree and internship into a livable salary.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And it is no longer the case. But at that time in my innocent 20s, early 20s, I actually thought that I would be able to score a legit, full-time, fully paid with benefits job. It sounds stupid me saying it right now, right?
Right. But it doesn't though. Like when you think about it from the standpoint of, okay, the time frame that you're in, blog era is like huge.
Right.
Like
2000, that was big.
It was. You were at literally the height of the blog era.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
We did not understand a few components.
Right.
We did not understand SEO. We did not understand Google Ads. We did not understand that there was a lot of money to be made.
Yes.
Yeah.
These were blogs that were created out of passion and again for the culture. So I don't think that you were like, oh man, these blogs are hot and heavy and I'm gonna dive in again.
No. And to be honest,
in retrospect, we can think that there was money to be made.
Right.
At the time, I don't think people knew.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no.
I'm not even saying that though. I'm saying like from the standpoint of I could understand why someone would look and say, okay, I can see why some money's back there, right? Like Complex enters the business at some point. They're like the start of the domino falling to some
I guess
degree.
I just had always understood from school
that
journalism does not pay And that's why it asked.
Oh yeah, no. To be honest with you, I had always thought that the path that I was on would lead me to a bigger. I knew
Something.
that as just simply as a contributing writer, I wasn't gonna make jack shit.
Right.
But at least I knew that I could put in my time and my hours and make the right connections to where like I could aspire to
Yeah.
get to that kind of position. When I was a freelancer, man, I knew first of all that it was gonna take forever for me to land the right position. And even when I was in New York, granted, I had landed a job eventually as like a staff writer.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it was just like where can I go from here? And that's pretty much what I had asked myself throughout with every major career opportunity that I took. I would just ask myself eventually after time had passed and I would be maybe at this level where I'm plateauing and I'd be like, where can I go
next?
from
Yeah.
here? Like, how can I grow?
Yeah.
Thankfully, where I'm at right now, I feel like I'm steadily growing, and there's a lot of room there.
Yeah.
As far as where asking myself where I'm at in regards to that question,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm coasting,
Mm-hmm.
I'm maintaining, and I'm also elevating.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me confident. That's what keeps me determined to continue to do that.
Yeah.
The state of journalism nowadays is not great. I'll admit that. And there's media companies that are folding and flailing and blowing money in every different direction. But
Yeah.
I feel like there's still room
Of course.
to make a solid living here.
I'm curious, right? Because what you're talking about is what you're seeing the transition of those who were in journalism start to do. And what I mean by that is if you pay attention to like Rob Markman, Jinx, Fraser Tharp, Nadeska, Ebro, they all have started to diverge and create their own platforms.
Right.
Where they're using their current job to get the visibility they need in order to build something on the side for themselves, right? Whether you're talking about Speedy, like all of these names who are, and I'm only hip hop adjacent, so I can't name the Latin writers, but from the standpoint
Right.
of like, when you look at it from that degree, even like Elliot Wilson, like
Right.
technically was a journalist, a writer, a writer, but they've used their voice in this space to continue to elevate. And I think what you're saying is instead of these persons needing the media company, they're developing their own and becoming their own companies and their own
Right.
platforms.
No,
And-
of course.
And it seems like you're leaning towards that direction yourself.
Yeah, over the years, I've definitely built a solid platform for myself. I feel like it's taken a lot of time. It's taken a lot of effort. But in my opinion, my platform, I feel like it's continuously growing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like I feel like I'm not bound right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like only hip hop. I'm not like only Latin or I'm not only anything. But I like to keep within that urban space because it's always been my comfort
What
zone.
you know, yeah.
What I know. And that's what
And it's
they
true
always
to
say.
it's true to you as well. Talking
course.
about things that you actually enjoy
And
consume.
that I care. Exactly.
Yeah.
I've always been told like write what so I literally took that and I ran with it.
Yeah.
When it comes to building my own platform, that's something that I'm actively doing like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I salute every artist, every writer who, especially the ones that he just named, who have done that. And I've looked up to plenty of them.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the top journalists in the game, you've got to be able to respect their work and follow what they do. But at the same time, like I've never been the type to duplicate. Like I've always kept to my own originality. And when it comes to building my own platform, that's what I want to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not the type to, granted, like there at this point in the game with social media, people just repost everything.
Yes.
But I like to come across different. Like I don't want to just repost the same thing everybody else is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I follow all of these different accounts, and when something breaks, it's literally the same repost in my timeline where now it's
I
like
always think that's
what's the
interesting
difference
because
now?
why would I go to yours? Yeah.
Right,
like,
exactly. And
this
that's really what it
bigger
is.
account already posted this. Why would I go to yours?
Exactly. And at this point, that's why I've always strived to deliver different content, something different to the table. And especially being from out here, like where there's not the writers that keep getting mentioned or the popular go-to blogs or whatever. Honestly, like they don't got people out here like
Right.
that. The only people that are out here like that are the other major brands. They got Baller Alert out here, Drink Champs. Obviously, you have it out here. I believe they have a team for the Shade Room that are out here. But when it comes down to it, you know, I'm my own person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not the type to where I'm going to literally like copy what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I like to set my own lane, offer my own take on the various content that gets shared across all platforms. So that's really what I feel what building my platform means to me.
Yeah.
And serving up the content that people like, but in my own way.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Do you think you'll ever see yourself out of South Florida?
Of course.
Yeah.
Eventually, one day. If I was able to go to New York, I feel like I can go anywhere.
Yeah.
I love it out here, and I have no reason to leave right now. But if the paycheck takes me there, I'm gonna go there.
Where do you think it would make the most sense for your trajectory?
I've always thought about going back to New York if it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
LA is another option. Atlanta's another option. But right now, everything that makes sense is here.
Yeah.
And I can't see myself leaving unless there's a great offer on the table.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I get it. I'm constantly battling if I want to leave.
Yeah.
Constantly.
You know what sucks though is because if you have a house or you have something to sell out here, even if you do sell it, it's like, where are you gonna go?
Right.
Because myself, like I'm a homeowner.
Yeah.
So I own a home, and I could, in retrospect, I could sell it right now if I really wanted to and rack up like $500,000. Right? Where am I gonna go? Especially out here.
Right.
You know, like I can't flip that into a housing
you can't
market.
Flip that to go to New York.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, you can't do that either.
Do that.
Hey, Arkansas is calling your name.
Nah,
bro.
man, I'm not trying to go out there.
Arkansas, bro.
Arkansas is calling your name.
Nah, I'm not trying to do no. I think Arkansas is in a landlocked state, but I'm not trying to.
Right? Yeah.
No, I don't think it is. Is it?
I'm not 100% sure, so I can't.
Could it possibly?
No,
I
make
think
me
it's
go viral off of that. But nah, I'm trying not to go to no landlocked states.
I feel you.
Yeah, I gotta be near a body of water.
Yeah, no, yes, it is a landlocked state. If that's what you're saying, it's totally in the middle of the map. There are no beaches and things along that line. So
that's
you're
what I
looking
figured.
for a coastal state.
I don't think.
Nah, for sure. Personally, look, the reality of the coastal cities as a whole, your best bet is probably going to be something in like Charlotte if you're talking about like $500,000.
Someone was saying something like South Carolina or whatever.
Charleston.
Like yeah. They were saying they have a lot more like the housing along the beaches is cheaper and shit. I'll go look it up.
I personally feel like I wouldn't be able to go anywhere that didn't have. I feel like when you leave South Florida and you realize how lucky we are as Hispanics that we have such rich culture here.
Yeah.
Because when you do go to those other places, like you'll find it in New York, you'll find it in LA, but when you go to other cities, man, you're just like, you feel like an outsider.
Yeah.
You feel,
bruh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As someone who lived in Seattle for
Seattle
3 years and change, like,
how did you survive?
I loved it there. Don't get me wrong. It's just,
didn't it rain all the time?
nah, it's crazy because it's not like as bad as like Florida in regards to rain. It's more like a mist. It's gray all the time. I'll give it that. But during the summers, undefeated. Nowhere's had a better summer than I've ever experienced in Seattle. But like when you talk about like none of your culture, like, bro, we would have to drive 35, 40 minutes south to like get the spices you need to make food.
I can't do that. I gotta be around. Like, Latinos gotta be within like a 5 mile radius.
Absolutely.
I can't not have no spices available nowhere.
No.
That's why I was saying I can't do like landlocked states because I need a body of water to go to, and I'm not doing no damn lakes. None of them lakes, none of them rivers. I ain't doing none of that.
Oh wait, my question that I told you I was gonna say.
Okay.
Because you're half and half. Yeah. Okay, so which half is the better half?
Oh man.
Damn, why she did you like that, bruh? Why she put you on the phone like that? Now you going viral. Now you going viral. Now you going viral.
You gonna start a family war,
feud? Did you had grandparents on both sides?
Yes.
Fully got to experience.
I did. I got to experience my Puerto Rican grandmother and my Cuban grandmother, which I love her to death, man.
Yeah. Sounds like she was a character.
She is a very big character. But Which was better? I don't know, man. Let's base it off the food. How about that?
Ooh, okay.
So I'm gonna tell you right now, I love Cuban food better.
Really?
Cuban food is better. I love the Puerto Rican dishes and all that, but the Cuban food got me in a chokehold.
Really?
That will always be my go-to.
What?
I love ropa vieja. I love tostones. I love all that. No, black rice and beans.
Yeah, moro.
Moro.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I would do it like that.
Okay, so the
That's how
Cuban food works?
The Cuban food works.
I'm not mad at it. I understand. Cuban food does hit. We're going to do our little session here. I don't know what the word is.
Segment.
Segment. There we go. There we go. I'm not going to show you what's in it.
Before you do that,
Yes.
The can.
we definitely got to get a saying.
Oh, yes.
From your background, your history.
Like a phrase that your grandparents or your parents used to say to you, or that you constantly hear all the time, that's like super, either it could be super Cuban or super Puerto Rican. Do you have any that comes to mind?
The only phrase that I remember my mom or my grandmother shouting or just screaming at random would be like, "Caso en Dios." Oh my God. Like, that would be it. It would be out of frustration or some bullshit like that.
Damn.
Yeah. I'd be like, damn, okay. But that would be the phrase. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, nope, that's good.
Yeah.
I feel you. Okay, so our little segment here with our tin of have you seen this?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember those cookies.
Do you remember the cookies? Were there always cookies when you opened them? What else would you have in there?
Man, there'd be all kinds of shit in there. Change. Freaking, my mom used to keep like just anything in there. My grandmother had this one. It wasn't like that though. It was like a bigger can.
Okay.
But she could like just anything. Like I'd open it. Wouldn't anything but cookies. That's basically it. Like I'd open it and it wouldn't be cookies.
It never was cookies.
Yeah, it was never cookies.
So
that's probably not cookies in there.
It could be. But yeah. So it's your turn to guess.
All right.
And you got to determine if there are cookies in here or there are not cookies in here. No.
Can I touch it? No, I can't touch it? Okay. I was going to see the condition of the can. I don't know. It looks fairly new.
I love how everyone always analyzes the can.
Every time. We got a rust on it.
Based on the way you just touched it, seemed a little bit hollow, so... I'm gonna go with there's no cookies in there.
There's no cookies?
No,
okay.
No
cookies. Open up.
Oh, there's gonna be cookies in there?
Okay. You got it with the trick.
There's definitely cookies in there, but this is the Goya joints. The Maria cookies. Oh my God. Yo, I love these joints, man.
They're for you. Enjoy.
Yo, thank you, man.
I got those because we just went to Cayocho not too long ago. And the ice cream spot, it's called Azúcar? Yeah.
Oh, I've been there.
And they have this ice cream with the Maria cookies.
What?
And the guava in it. Boy, that ice cream hits. I don't even like ice cream.
It's pretty good over there.
I gotta go down there.
I don't even like ice cream, but it's like a play on like a pastelito that has like guava and cheese in it.
Oh wow!
So it's like that, and
but
with the cookies is in there.
Wow!
Top tier, top notch.
That's great.
Yes.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'm glad that there were cookies of a sort.
My wife thanks you too.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story and sharing your background. And I'm really always happy when people that I've known for a long time come, because we've known each other for a long time. We see each other in passing, but we never really get to discuss who we are, where we came from, and those things. And so I'm always happy to be able to know a little bit more about the people in our community and the people that we've been around for a long time, and kind of just share the similarities in our backgrounds and how we've grown up.
No,
so
sure. That was a great conversation.
Yeah.
It's kind of therapeutic for me because it's like, it's not like a subject that I get to talk about. It's not every day where I'm opening up about this. So I think this was a great opportunity, and I appreciate you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Growing Up Spanglish.
Ya tú sabes.
Tell the people where to find you.
You can follow me at _TonyMC, and follow my new page is RapBasil305. It's my new art page that I'm starting up right now.
Okay.
I do a list for Art Basel every year, and this past year I launched Rap Basel with the intention of promoting various different hip hop related galleries, events, pop ups, like stuff like that. Keeping it going strong. So make sure y'all follow that and follow me.
Love that. And for us here, make sure to follow wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you listen, follow us, like us, leave a review, leave 5 stars, share with your friends. It really helps us out to keep growing and to keep going. All right. Bye.
Peace.
Yo soy boricua.